This is a response to insulaspark. Hi there. I don't know your first name, so I'm just going to call you Insula. Your video call. Oh, for fuck's sake. I should have queued it up. I didn't queue it up. It's called something like... It's a response to my video on the Jehovah's Witnesses anyway. And you're talking about being a window cleaner and how the window cleaning profession seems to have more than its fair share of Jehovah's Witnesses, and maybe that's something to do with the unrivaled opportunity it gives them to knock on people's doors, or maybe it's just because climbing up ladders is good rehearsal for going to heaven. Who knows? Either way, interesting stuff. Thanks very much for that. I mean, several things. I was fascinated by the name of your channel page, actually, there, Insulaspark, because at first I thought, what's that mean? Is there a place, because you sound like a Glaswegian, I think you are, so is there a place in Glasgow, I don't know, called Insulaspark, and this guy lives in Insulaspark. So I used to live in Glasgow myself, actually. I lived in Maryhill, and then in Rockhill first, then in Maryhill. And I don't remember Insulaspark though, so I didn't think it was that. And then I thought, is it in something like insulaspark? I kept thinking it was a park, I don't know why. And then I figured out it was probably spark, insular spark, which was interesting for me because I've been reading about the insula, funnily enough, that part of the brain called the insula, which features in a recent Scientific American I've been looking at. So I thought that was interesting as well, and the idea that it might have a spark in it. So for all those reasons, it was good. And I just googled you. I hope it's you. Maybe it's just something you like. And it's a Glasgow band, isn't it? Called Insulaspark. I've been looking if that is you, your MySpace page, and playing a song called Substance. And I've actually made. Sorry, I am responding to your video, I promise. I've just made a really short video using Substance as a backing track. I'll put it on UDoubled. I'll put the link down below. If you think I'm using your music inappropriately, it's just a little joke. Please feel free to tell me, I'll take it off, of course. But back to your video itself. I mean, one of the things that jumped out at me, it wasn't the central point of your video, so apologies if I'm going off topic here, but it was about this thing about belief. Because what that reminded me, and the fact that, as you say, did these people really believe what they're saying? And that really resonated with me because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. After a video I watched by ContraPoints, I don't know if you know ContraPoints, it used to be called Nicotine 2, nice lad called Nick. And he made a video about the same kind of thing, about religion, and do religious people really believe what they say? And he was basically saying, well, it seems unlikely, because if you really did believe that the son of the divine architect of the entire universe came down to earth and did what he did, if you really believed that, that would be a belief of such earth-shattering importance to you that you would dedicate your life to it in a way that most people who claim to have a belief don't seem to do. So even though they say they're believers, and I guess they are in some way, it's not belief in the way that I think we use the term belief. And I think you're alluding to the same idea, that these people, sure, they're believers, but they're not believers in a way which perhaps we might associate with that term. And what it made me think about, and I'm just speculating here, so it might be bullshit, but what it made me think about is about this term belief, and also things like faith and evidence in which these things are based. Because it seems to me that up until about 300 or 400 years ago, 300 years ago let's say, the idea of belief and faith was so different to what it is now. Because we've got an understanding of what belief is now, which is kind of the gold standard, isn't it? Evidence-based, scientifically arrived at, empirically evidence-supported proof is belief, isn't it? I can demonstrate. And we have, verification methods and falsification methods, and we have all these criteria for what constitutes proper evidence. And as I say, that seems to me that's the kind of gold standard for what belief is. And that doesn't just apply to prosaic things. I can make outrageous beliefs about the way that the universe is structured, about the fundamental composites of matter, about the way that time works. Completely outrageous claims I can make, far in excess of the religious claims. But as long as I can support them scientifically and empirically with evidence, evidence drawn from the Hubble Space Telescope or the Large Hadron Collider or from some kind of genome project, as long as I can provide the evidence and you can testify, go through it in a way which is transparent, then I can commandeer your belief. You have to believe the evidence. We all do, and we're all subject to that. And that's such a difference, isn't it? You know, because as I say, up until 300 years ago, that just wasn't there. Belief and faith were interchangeable concepts, really. There was no real way of establishing what knowledge was, even. And, you know, some people at that time would still say that, prior to Descartes, would still say, well, there is no such way of achieving knowledge, really. It's just statements which may or may not be true. But now, as I say, we've got this gold standard. So I think once you've got that, the idea of belief has to change, doesn't it? Because we use these terms interchangeably at the moment, but they're not the same thing anymore, I don't think. You know, my belief in the Higgs-like particle, you know, the Higgs boson, my belief in the existence of that is entirely based on, in this case, what little I know about the scientific evidence supporting it. But it's a very particular kind of belief. But we use the same word, belief, that religious people do. For example, what happens when you die. And I've been finding quite a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses in the last 48 hours since I made that video. You know, about the 144,000 that go to heaven, or whatever, you know. And that's the same word, this is belief, but they seem such different things. It seems to me, now, as I said, this might be bullshit, so you tell me if I'm talking crap here. It seems to me that when some people use belief, including myself, when I'm not talking empirically, I really just mean something like, this is the story I use to understand this idea. You know what I mean? Like, if you say, like the Manichaeans, an ancient religious sect, believed that the world and the universe really was the site of a great cosmic battle between the forces of good and the forces of evil. That was it. That was their worldview. Now they believed that to be true. Now I don't think we can say that's true now. There's no scientifically empirical evidence for that. But nevertheless, sometimes, all of us, even atheists, I'm guessing you're something like an atheist, English atheism, which is a bit different, isn't it? Atheism light. Even though I'm not a Manichaeist, I still find myself occasionally using that story, treating the world as if it was a place of a cosmic struggle between good and evil. And other people I see using that a lot, you know, on the news, the military, politicians, a lot of it on YouTube. Trotting out. They won't say we're Manichaeanists. We firmly believe in the empirical existence of the forces of good and forces of evil locked in eternal combat. No, they won't say those words. But you can tell by the way they're talking that on some level, that's a story or a way of understanding the world which is important and which is powering their thought. Do you know what I mean? Which is underpinning the way they talk about the world. I wish I could find some examples. Well, things like the axis of evil. Remember the axis of evil that used to be popularly talked about? Was it Ronald Reagan who said that? That whole idea. Bush, probably. Anyway, the axis of evil. I mean, that's a classic example, isn't it? They put on faces and they turn into people, as David Byrne says. So that's all my four-penny on that, really. Belief, I think, has a different kind of meaning. It comes from the etymology of the word is... Sorry, ramble. The etymology of the word is from the idea of submit, isn't it? To submit to something, if you believe it, etymologically speaking. Particularly submitting to authority. And, you know, we used to submit to the authority of priests and the authority of princes, and now we submit to the authority of scientists. And perhaps... Yes, that kind of people, and it's authority which is based in different kinds of things. I would say it's a more justified authority these days. But that idea of submitting oneself to a story or to a way of thinking the world, I don't know. That seems to be what's going on. So when the Jehovah's Witnesses come round, I think they believe what they say. But I think they believe it in a different way to their belief in the Large Hadron Collider. I think their belief is one which is really about, this is the story which is making sense of my life. But they don't want to say that because it sounds trivial. So they say belief instead. Anyway, thanks for the response. Thank you for being called insulaspark. And thanks for living in Glasgow. I've got somebody else on UW on my other side. It's from Glasgow. Yep, me too. So it's nice to meet some Glaswegians again. Because as I say, I used to live in Glasgow for a while and had a really great time there. So yeah, thanks very much and goodbye.